There is something God never had to do, and yet he did it. And when he did, he used words that have puzzled philosophers, rabbis, and theologians for more than 3,000 years. 4 words in Hebrew. Just 4. But inside those 4 words lives one of the deepest secrets about the nature of God, about time, about existence itself. And today I'm going to explain it to you in a way you've never heard before. Before you keep watching, I need to ask you a favor. If at any point during this video you feel goosebumps, if something inside you stirs, if this feels different from what you normally find online, hit like right now and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because this kind of content isn't pushed by the algorithm alone. It's pushed by people, and you can be part of making sure it reaches whoever needs to see it. All right, now let's go. We're in the Sinai Desert. The exact year is debated, but the most conservative scholars place this around the 13th century before Christ. Think about that. We're talking about more than 3,200 years ago. The ancient world was dominated by Egypt, one of the most powerful civilizations that has ever existed on this earth. The pharaoh was not simply a king. He was considered a living god, a god with a name, a form, a lineage. The Egyptians had gods for everything, for the sun, for the Nile River, for death, for fertility. Every god had a name. Every name held a power, and every power was limited to its domain. In that context, a man is standing before a bush that burns but is not consumed. Moses is not a famous prophet yet. He is a fugitive, a man who fled Egypt 40 years earlier because he killed a guard who was beating a Hebrew slave. Now he is 80 years old, tending sheep in the desert, and he had probably already resigned himself to the fact that his story would end like this, in silence, in obscurity, without significance. But then something happens that changes everything. The voice coming from the bush tells him that he will be the instrument to lead the Hebrew people out of slavery. And Moses, being a practical man, asks a question that was completely logical for his time and culture, a question that anyone from that era would have asked. He says, "Look, if I go to the people and they ask me who sent me, what do I tell them? What is your name?" To us today, that might sound strange. Why does the name matter so much? But in the ancient world, the name of a god was not just a label. It was his essence. It was his nature. It was his power. If you knew the true name of a god, you had access to his power. That is why the Egyptians had legends about gods who kept their names secret. That is why in many cultures across the Middle East, pronouncing the correct name in a ritual was the difference between it working or not. The name was the being. So Moses asks for the name. And what God answers is what has left the most brilliant thinkers in human history speechless. In Hebrew, the words are Ehyeh asher Ehyeh. The translations vary. The most well-known in English is I am that I am. But it can also be translated as I will be what I will be. Or even I am the one who always will be. The Hebrew verb Ehyeh, from which Ehyeh comes, does not distinguish rigidly between present, past, and future the way English does. In biblical Hebrew, that verb describes a continuous, active, uninterrupted existence. It is not a state. It is an eternal process. It is a flame that never goes out. Do you understand what is happening here? All the gods of the ancient world had names that defined them and limited them. Ehyeh was the god of the sun, powerful during the day, weakened at night. Osiris was the god of the dead, confined to the underworld. Baal was the god of the storm, relevant only in the rainy season. Every name was also a cage, a description that, while granting power, also set boundaries. But when God says, I am that I am, he is saying something radically different from anything the ancient world had ever heard. He is saying, you cannot put me in a category. You cannot reduce me to a function. You cannot understand me through what I do, because what I am transcends anything I could ever do. I am existence itself. I do not depend on anything to exist. I was not created. I had no beginning. I will have no end. I simply am. The Greek philosophers, centuries later, when they began searching for the first principle of all things, the arche, the foundation of reality, were looking for exactly this: a being that exists by itself, that needs no cause, that sustains everything without being sustained by anything. And without knowing it, they were describing what was already written in Hebrew in the book of Exodus. Thomas Aquinas, in the 13th century after Christ, wrote that the most perfect revelation of God's being is found in that name, the one who is. God, said Thomas, is the only being for whom essence and existence are identical. Everything else, you, me, a stone, a star, we exist because something gave us being. God is being itself. His essence is to exist. But there is something more, something you may not have considered. When God says, I am that I am, he is also speaking in the first person singular. He does not say the one who is. He says, I am. He is speaking in first person. That is enormously significant. The Greek philosophers arrived at the idea of a first mover, an absolute principle, but it was an abstract idea. Cold, impersonal, a cosmic force, a law, something that moves but does not listen, that sustains but does not speak. But the God of the burning bush says, I. He is personal. He has a voice, and that voice is speaking to a man who smells like sheep, whose hands are calloused, who is full of fear and doubt and excuses. That I am is not spoken from a distant, unreachable throne. It is spoken in front of a broken man, in a desert, beside a bush that burns without being consumed. The fire that does not consume, by the way, is another powerful theological image. In the ancient world, fire was a symbol of divine presence. But fire always destroys what it touches. It always consumes. It always ends. A burning bush normally lasts seconds. This one has been burning for a while when Moses sees it, and it is not being destroyed. It is not diminishing. It is a presence that gives light, that gives warmth, that draws attention, but does not devour what it inhabits. Some see in that an image of God's relationship with his people, a presence that dwells in the midst of human fragility without destroying it, a fire that burns but does not annihilate. Let's go back to the name. After saying, I am that I am, God gives Moses a shorter version to tell the people. He says, Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. In Hebrew, Ehyeh, and then, from that same verb, from that same root Ehyeh, comes the name that will be used throughout the entire Old Testament, YHWH. For consonants in Hebrew, what is called the Tetragrammaton, the exact vowels were lost over time because the Jewish people, out of reverence for the name, stopped pronouncing it out loud. English translations usually print Lord in small capitals wherever YHWH appears in the original Hebrew. When Jesus, centuries later, said before the religious leaders of his time, before Abraham was, I am, they did not take it as a statement about his age. They understood exactly what he was saying. He was using the same name. That is why they picked up stones to throw at him. To them it was blasphemy. To him it was revelation. I am that I am is not just a name. It is an ontological declaration, an affirmation about the nature of reality. There is a being that exists in an absolute and unconditioned way. That depends on nothing. That is not subject to time, space, change, or decay. And that being chose to reveal himself, chose to speak, chose to make himself known. Not through a great king, not through a powerful philosopher, not in a palace or a golden temple. He did it in front of a bush, in front of a fugitive with shepherd's hands, in front of someone who felt like he was not enough, who did not have the right words, who was afraid. That also says something about who the one saying, I am really is. If this stirred something in you, if you feel there is something here you want to keep exploring, subscribe, hit the bell, because on this channel, we do not make empty entertainment. We ask real questions, we answer with real study, and we respect your intelligence. The next video is going to go even deeper into something very few people have explained well. What does it actually mean for God to be eternal when we can only understand time in a linear way? That's coming soon, and you are not going to want to miss it.